There was a young monk who had been in the Zen monastery for many, many years. In fact, since his early youth. One day, the abbot, the master of the monastery, called the monk to him and said, "It is now time for you to go out into the world to enact the Dharma." Now the monk was both happy and sad, but he left and he returned to his little cell, and he put his few belongings into a kerchief and tied them on a staff, and then he came back to say farewell to his master of so many years. When he came outside the audience chamber, he carefully placed his straw sandals at the side of the doorway, and then bowing, he entered the presence of the master. And the master said to him, "On what side of the doorway did you place your sandals?" And in that emotional moment, standing before the master, the monk's mind went blank. He could not recall on which side he'd left them, although he'd carefully and mindfully placed the straw sandals outside the door. When he indicated to the master that he couldn't remember, the master scolded him and beat him with his staff. With tears in his eyes, the monk backed out of the audience chamber, confused. Was this a test? Did I not pass the test? What's going to happen now? Do I have to stay? Can I go? Confusion. But then he met the head monk of the monastery and told him what had happened. The head monk said, "Wait, let me go and consult the master." So after a few moments, the head monk came out and said to the monk, No, the master says it is time for you to go out into the world. But this was his last chance to scold and beat you. Because when you come back, you're going to be enlightened, and he'll only be able to nod and smile at you. And then there's the story of an old farmer who had 3 sons, and the old farmer was coming to the end of his life. So he called his 3 sons to him and he said, "My legacy to you is all that I have taught you over these years. How to remember God, how to be thoughtful of others. This spice garden, the herb garden that has maintained us over all of these years, is my gift to you. Take care of it well. Keep well the lessons that I have passed on to you. Be vigilant in the herb garden that thieves do not come along to steal what has been grown." Not long after that, the farmer passed away. His 3 sons kept very well their promise to their father. They kept vigil, taking turns to stay up at night to make sure that no thieves of any kind, either human or animal, came to steal from the herb garden. And after some while, this was noted by those heavenly bodies. And so the great prophet Elijah, or Qadir as he is called in Sufi terms, was sent to give a gift, a boon, to the three sons. First, he went to the first and eldest son, and he said to him, "Because of your diligence, your vigilance, and your honor to your father, you are to be given a boon. Make a choice. Do you want wealth? Do you want knowledge? Or do you want a good wife?" The first and eldest son said, "I want wealth. I want to be rich." And so the prophet Elijah gave the eldest son a gold coin, which reproduced itself endlessly. He then went to the second son and asked him the same question: "Do you want wealth, knowledge, or a good wife?" And the second son said, "I want to be the most learned man in all the world." So the prophet Elijah gave the second son a book. And when the second son looked in this book, he found that it would answer any question, philosophical or otherwise, that he would ask. Elijah then went to the third son and asked the same question. And the third son said, "The greatest gift in all of life is a good wife." "Ah," said Elijah, "then we must go and seek her." So they set out together, Elijah and the youngest son. And they came to an inn, where they spent the night. And it so happened that the innkeeper had a daughter. But it was obvious, in the way that the daughter served them, in the way that she spoke to the other patrons, that she was not of fine character. So they left the next morning with no thought that this would be the youngest son's bride. They came to another inn after a long day, and again the innkeeper had a daughter. But you know, Elijah has the wonderful gifts. He was able to know the communications of the birds and the animals. And the animals told him, "Oh, what misfortune would fall on this man if he married this girl." And so she too was rejected. They set out once again on the third day, and they came to another inn, and there they settled for the night, peacefully. It was harmonious. It was warm, comforting. The service from the innkeeper and his daughter was indeed all that could be asked. And so, that morning, Elijah and the third son went to the innkeeper and asked, "Could your daughter marry this young man?" innkeeper said, if she agrees, you can take her as your bride. Well, of course, as these things go, in the evening of service, there had been an interchange between the youngest son and the innkeeper's daughter, that beautiful connection that is made from heart to heart. And so she readily agreed to become his bride. Elijah then left the young couple after performing the marriage ceremony for them, and they returned to the small house and the herb garden, where it was found that the eldest son, with all his wealth, had gone off and built himself a palace, and the second son had left to become a great teacher. But the youngest son and his bride settled into the little cottage, took care of the herb garden, the wife carefully tending the household, and the youngest son taking care of the herb garden and keeping vigilance so that no thieves would come. Whenever visitors came, they were welcomed and given hospitality. After some time, Elijah the prophet decided to come and check on how these 3 men were faring. He went in disguise of a poor man to the rich eldest son's palatial residence to ask for alms. He was beaten and was about to be sent away when he revealed to the eldest son his true being and said, "You have not lived up to the wishes of your father, nor the heritage he passed on to you. I take back the gold coin." The eldest son, even though he looked high and low, could no longer find the source of his great wealth. Elijah went to the second son in the disguise of a young and poor student seeking learning to the house of the second son. But when he confronted the second son, asking to be taught the ways of wisdom, the second son scornfully was about to send him away, saying, "I do not give knowledge to such as you." And then, of course, again, Elijah revealed himself and said, "I take away the source of your knowledge." When the second son went to the book, its pages were empty. He went to the house of the third son, the humble cottage with its herb garden, disguised as a traveler. And when he arrived and knocked on the door, the wife opened the door, and seeing a tired, thirsty, and undoubtedly hungry traveler, welcomed him in to their fireside, offering him soup and bread. Elijah revealed himself to the young couple, congratulated them on living up to the ways of the Father, and stating that those gifts that had been given to the brothers were now theirs. The gold coin that never, ever ran dry, the book of knowledge and wisdom. When we look at this story from the viewpoint of that place where we find ourselves after meditation, where its obvious meanings are clear to us without thought, its symbols become evident to us because of the intuition that's been honed over our workings and our pathway in life, and its deep, deep meaning, that meaning which reveals the arcane law behind it, have a possibility of becoming evident to us. But first, let's look at the meaning of the numbers in this story. What does it mean? The most blessed thing is to have a good wife. What is the duality in us that has to be merged? So that life itself becomes harmonious, welcoming. So that this arcane law can be enacted. What does it mean? What are these two in us that come together? Someone came the other day, or maybe it was while out and about in conversation, and said, I can no longer differentiate between the subjective and the objective. What does this mean when the subjective and the objective, the opposites, even bringing it down to male and female, as is in this story, what happens when the male and female, the subjective and the objective, come together in us? Put us in a place where we can look at life and see the arcane laws, the mysteries in action. It cannot happen otherwise. It's not possible from the viewpoint of objectivity to know these laws. nor is it possible to view them from the aspect of subjectivity. They have to come together. But this story gives us an indication. Then we can ask, what is the law? What is the mystery revealed through this story? Take a stab at it. Let it arise out of that point. Now, where subjectivity and objectivity are no longer two channels down the side of our spine, or even a physical partnership, or two sides of our brain.
Is it the end of separateness?
Yes, do shout it, so you can remember it.
So the duality is the end of separateness, and therefore parts make a whole, balanced, creates balance or homeostasis.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just a recognition of our separateness.
Yes.
One can't be without the other, even inside ourselves in the internal psychological sense.
No. It's like there's no inner and outer.
All is welcomed and symbolised by the third sign, his wife welcoming all visitors.